Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday morning for me. Not sure about you all, but I wanted to do it on a Sunday and pretty early my time because I'm Pacific time, and that is very early for me, but for most people, it's like 3 to 8 hours ahead. So I'm always behind on the times. So today it's all about mental health. And I put together a presentation, well, multiple presentations. And then at the end of the presentation, a Q&A where you can ask me anything about mental illnesses, mental disorders, neurological disorders. I am not fancy enough to be able to share my screen for everyone to see the presentation that I put together, which I worked very hard on. And then I was playing with my computer and I was like, yeah, I can't make this happen regarding sharing screens and stuff. So here we are, a little technical difficulty, but I am going to just read off my slides. And how many slides do we have? Oh, we're at 30. Yay! I just love PowerPoint presentations. I don't know why. But maybe that's how my brain works. PowerPoint presentations. Now, I'm going to do the presentation first and then jump into a few questions that I got when I asked on the community tab. And then if there are any other questions in the chat, then I'll answer them. But I did have a lot of interest regarding this live stream, so I hope you all aren't shy. Just send those questions in the little comment live stream section. I'm not really paying attention to anything else, so if you post that question somewhere else other than the live stream comment section, then I will miss it, unfortunately. But let's get into the PowerPoint presentation today. I would like to say, as an important reminder, jumping in, I am not a licensed professional and I have never claimed to be, and I will never probably be a licensed professional, though maybe a peer specialist, but that's still not a therapist or psychiatrist. So I cannot diagnose anyone, including myself. Every mental illness and mental disorder and neurological disorder we're going to talk about today, I've been professionally diagnosed with over the years. That's why I know so much about these particular mental illnesses, mental disorders, and neurological disorders. I have been subclinical, meaning little to no symptoms for all of my mental illnesses and disorders for many, many years. And I will have citations and resources in the description box below after the live stream ends because I forgot to put them in before. I did take my Adderall today, but I forgot. I'm so sorry. Look, hello. You can see a little symptom of ADHD, forgetfulness, and procrastination. And also, I am going to just only talk about the things that I have, which is OCD, PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder or GAD, depression, and ADHD. Though I know about schizophrenia and bipolar because it runs in the family, but I personally don't have those two. I just have OCD, PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, ADHD. Just have. Yes, I'm I have a lot. And I wanted to really get into this because a lot of people will say, unfortunately, and in some cases, this is true, how could you be subclinical and recover and healed from all of those mental illnesses and disorders all at once? It can be done. And that's why we are here today. So, first up, I'm going to talk about OCD and treatment options. Now, OCD is called obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a mental disorder characterized by intrusive thoughts, images, and feelings that cause distress. To try and get rid of these unwanted thoughts, images, and feelings, a person with OCD will perform repetitive behaviors or mental acts called compulsions. But no matter what, these compulsions do not help you and only make OCD symptoms worse. Obsessions and compulsions definitions is where it can get a little confusing, but obsessions are intrusive, unwanted, and persistent thoughts, urges, feelings, or images that cause significant anxiety or distress. OCD does latch on to things that you care about or that go against your morals. Common obsessions include fear of germs, fear of setting the house on fire, fear of losing a beloved item, randomly losing control and harming yourself or others, so on and so forth. Compulsions are repetitive behaviors or mental acts that a person feels driven to perform in response to an obsession or according to rules that must be followed rigidly, which would be rituals. Common compulsions include tapping an item X amount of times, checking an item to see if it's turned off or on, praying all day because you thought you said a bad word against your God or gods, asking Chat GPT if you're a bad person for 5 hours straight. The obsession comes first and then the compulsion. This is called the OCD cycle. Now, OCD compulsion examples. There are physical compulsions and mental compulsions, but no matter the wording, compulsions are compulsions and we don't want to do them. Examples of compulsions are washing your hands constantly so you don't get others sick, checking the stove 50 times so you don't burn down the house, asking 20 different people in a single day if you are a good person or a bad person, constantly asking AI, can you wake up one day and become a serial killer? And continually asking your spouse if they love you or not. Now, there are different subtypes of OCD. So you have, let's say, contamination OCD, which is I need to get rid of the germs no matter what, even though that's not possible. So that's where you see a lot of excessive cleaning and hand washing. You have religious OCD, where is focused on blasphemy or going to hell or not being a good enough Christian, Muslim, Jew, does not matter. If you are religious, you probably have gone through, and well, if you're religious and have OCD, you probably have gone through excessive rituals around trying to prove that you're not sinful or you didn't curse or something like that. Now we have harm OCD, where it would be hurting yourself or others and being fear of hurting yourself or others. And everyone on planet Earth has intrusive thoughts and intrusive images and even intrusive feelings. But those with OCD, they get stuck. And instead of passing on from that weird thought of, oh, I could just like jump off this bridge, the person with OCD is going to notice that thought way more and say, oh my gosh, why did I have that thought? What's wrong with me? Do I want to hurt myself? Do I want to hurt other people? I need to do everything that I can to get rid of that thought. But when you do that, as in with compulsions, it will make the OCD worse because you are signaling to your brain that that is dangerous. And the human brain is smart and stupid at the same time. Yes, it is. It does not understand that we, the consciousness of humans, that as far as we know, we have the most complex consciousness of all animals, that we can, in a way, separate ourselves from the brain or OCD and then ourselves. And it is stuck in survival mode. So if you interact with OCD in any way regarding a compulsion, then that is signaling to the brain, oh, that is dangerous. And I will continue to show you that intrusive image, intrusive thought, that feeling, because we need to keep you safe. But you keep yourself safe, not your OCD. Facts are not feelings. Feelings are not facts. Feelings and emotions keep you safe sometimes. The firing of emotions and feelings, it makes sense when you have lions and tigers and bears coming at you. But in the 21st century, it usually does not make sense. So we have to come back to the present moment and logically remind ourselves we need to not engage with OCD at all. Never. Do not do what OCD is saying. You need to do the opposite, in fact. Now, the OCD cycle is as follows: intrusive thought, feeling, or image that leads to anxiety. You want to get rid of that anxiety because it's uncomfortable. Then you do a compulsive behavior. And there is a temporary relief, but there is never, ever any sort of relief that lasts long. It's always temporary. And so this cycle continues over and over and over, and it often gets worse. So, how do you break the OCD cycle? You do not do the compulsion. Example of the OCD cycle: you have an intrusive thought. You have to wash your hands 50 times, or else you will make your loved ones sick and kill them. Now you have the anxiety because you don't want to hurt someone or yourself, because that goes against your morals. So you wash your hands 50 times in a row. There is a temporary relief until the intrusive thought comes back and asks for more. The example of breaking the OCD cycle: you have to wash your hands 50 times, or else you will make your loved ones sick and kill them. You have the anxiety, but you accept the thought in your mind and you do not wash your hands 50 times. You wash your hands one time and then you walk away. The golden treatment for OCD is ERP, and that is exposure response therapy, which is a kind of wordy. So you'll see a lot of acronyms around. Only an OCD specialist is trained in ERP therapy, so make sure you find someone specifically licensed in this type of therapy. If you go to anyone else, they will not know how to treat OCD. OCD is rare, but it can be treated. You just have to go to an OCD specialist. And sometimes, for some reason, there will be people that say they're OCD specialists, but they've never heard of exposure response therapy. They're lying. I don't know why. Do not do therapy with them. You have to ask for exposure response therapy. Now, this is a lifelong process. There is no cure for OCD. ERP entails the gradual buildup of exposing people to scary or stressful situations that trigger their obsessions or fear over time. It is not flooding. With a trained professional, you will create an exposure hierarchy and start with your less stressful OCD obsession and then move up to the all-time scariest ones. Now, skin picking disorder, it is another form of OCD where someone picks or bites or pulls at their hair, skin, and or nails. Skin picking disorder is currently classified as an impulse control disorder. Skin picking disorder is also sometimes referred to as a body focused repetitive behavior. It is also sometimes referred to as an obsessive compulsive spectrum disorder, or OC spectrum disorder, because it shares features with OCD, but research suggests that the most effective treatment for skin picking is CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, including the specific types of CBT called habit reversal training and comprehensive behavioral model. Acceptance and commitment therapy, which is ACT, may also be helpful in treating skin picking disorder. Research also suggests that skin picking may be effectively treated with medications such as SSRIs, which in turn it means selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So I have some I don't skin pick. I will pluck my eyebrow. I'll do like this. So it's actually usually this one. If you ever see my eyebrow, my left eyebrow, a little not as full. How about that? It's because I'm doing this. And I'm doing it more lately because I'm extremely stressed out for many, many reasons. But what you have to do with skin picking disorder is going to be different from OCD because they fall under an umbrella, and you'll see this a lot. There's a lot of things that fall under specific umbrellas, but things are different. Also, people are different, so you have to go to a licensed professional and see what can be done. And it can be very hard to find, especially for OCD professionals because it's so rare. But I do not suggest doing ERP or trying to get hold of your skin picking or hair picking on your own because it's very, very intense therapy. Now, navigating OCD and how to manage it. Number one, always ERP with a licensed professional. 2, medication if needed or if recommended. Number 3, this is a big one, mindfulness, meditation, yoga daily. Mindfulness is staying in the present moment. I actually do mindfulness over meditation and yoga. I highly suggest Thich Nhat Hnah and his teachings on mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that does not come naturally to humans overall. We are very in the past or very in the future, but staying in the present moment is how you get through really tough times, and it's a lifelong process. You're not going to master mindfulness or meditation or yoga. Even with monks and nuns, Buddhist monks and nuns, it's an ongoing thing. Every day, every minute must be kept up. But these lifestyle changes, though they're going to be a lot and some work for you and other things might not work for you, they're going to slowly but surely help you get back into a normal feeling and also just calmness, which we need. We need a calmness or even just like a neutral stance when we are dealing with these mental illnesses, mental disorders, and neurological disorders. Now, a big part, and I think people forget, but let's bring back hobbies. Get into a hobby or 2 or 3, exercise daily. Now, this is going to depend on the person, of course. Like I'll remind everyone throughout the presentation multiple times. For me personally, because I have neck and back issues, and I also have a sciatica issue, I lift weights. I can't really do cardio, and half of the yoga poses I can't do. So I have to do very specific, limited weightlifting exercises, but weightlifting and cardio, all good. Good to go. We just need to exercise at least 30 minutes a day, every day. Though some people like me, I need 2 full rest days, as in I don't even go for a walk. Yeah. So, like I said, look into possibly getting a personal trainer if you can afford it. If not, then talk to your doctor about what you can and can't handle. Always, though, start slow. Like I started on 5-pound weights, and that hurt. Okay. But then I got up to 15-pound weights, and that's over, you know, what was it, like 4 or 5 months? This is a lifelong process. This is a slow process. Even working out, the mind and body are connected. It's better to go slowly but steady. It does win the race, I swear. Number 6 is cutting back on sugar, caffeine, and carbs. And for some people, you have to just take out caffeine altogether. For example, caffeine really doesn't do anything regarding like hyping me up. That's probably because I have ADHD. That's the last thing we'll talk about. So it might just, I don't know. It does interesting things for me, like caffeine slows things down. And you will notice that if you have ADHD. A lot of people, however, they get really hyped up, they get paranoid, they get upset when you're on caffeine. Even if it's like a little bit of caffeine, cut that out. Now, sugar, yeah, no, we don't want sugar. We want to limit sugar as much as possible. And carbs, yeah, we got to cut those carbs. Yeah, we do. Because the gut, it is more research is showing that the gut is very much connected to mental health care. And I know some foods just taste delicious. I totally understand. But I feel so much better when I have a nice protein, I have a salad, I have fruit, compared to when I was eating trash like pasta and pizza, and it's just not good for you. We need to do as much as we can for lifestyle changes to feel good, mind and body. Number 7, get into a daily and nightly routine. This is not a ritual. Rituals for OCD are no. Routine is really, what are some things that you do in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night that are going to be the same or around the same time? And that also goes into number 8. Get up at the same time and go to bed at the same time unless you're sick or on vacation. Oh, if I listened to my therapist about this one thing, which I did not for many years, I was thinking, oh, I mean, my bedtime at 12:30, going to bed at 12:30 and waking up at 3, that's not a problem. Oh, it was such a problem. It was such a bad problem. Now, this might take quite some time. It took me about 4 months to really get into this routine because you're fixing a lot of problems with your circadian rhythm. And it's going to be hard, absolutely. But here's what you have to do, and it's going to suck. But let's say you, I'm just going actually for my example. I went to bed at 12:30 back in the day, and I wanted to be on the schedule of getting up at, what was it, 8 or 8:30 in the morning. And my body's not used to that. It wanted way more sleep, which, yeah, more sleep does not mean that it's good. It's actually an average of 7 hours and 13 minutes. It depends on people, but the average is 7 hours and 13 minutes for a good night's sleep. And so, yeah, I was having trouble going to sleep. Maybe I didn't fall asleep until 2:30 in the morning because I was tossing and turning. But guess what? I got my booty up at 8:30. I was tired the whole day. It did not feel good. And there were times where I had just a completely messed up sleeping schedule that I, took a nap and it turned out to be 4 hours. I'm like, oh my God, why did I do that? I didn't set an alarm. No, the small things really get you sometimes. And so then the schedule is okay, but not really because I slept for 4 hours in the middle of the day. So then I am still back at, okay, well, fell asleep at 1:30 this time, but I'm getting my booty up at 8:30. And it could even very well be that, let's say you have a worse sleeping schedule, 2 a.m. going to sleep, 4 p.m. waking up. But where do you want to be? I wouldn't push it to be like, ooh, I want to wake up at 6 a.m. I would go, like for that type of thing, I would go for like a 9 a.m. So, you go to bed at 2 a.m. You're waking up at 9 a.m. no matter what. You're not going back to bed. No, you're not. And you're not napping either. Yeah, that kind of sucks, but we're going back on a better sleeping schedule. Sleep deprivation is is often used as a somewhat, or well, it depends on definitions, of course, but you can use it as a torture device. So sleep is where the brain and the body heal. If you're not on a good sleep schedule, you need to get on it. You really do. Number 9 is spend time outdoors, at least 30 minutes a day, if not more, and really get that vitamin D in there. Number 10 is limit screen time. This is for everything that we're going to talk about, just in life in general, actually. You don't have a mental illness or a disorder, limit your screen time. I would say anything under 3 hours. I'm at like 3.5 hours. It's pretty good. I want to get under 3 hours, of course. And just remember that, yes, the internet is real life, but it's also not real life. And I think so. If you have Netflix, The Social Dilemma is a fantastic documentary on the obsession of the internet and the obsession with phones and your laptop and just anything regarding the internet. They will have, or they do. It's a fantastic documentary. All of the facts, all of the research and the citations. If you don't believe me that the screen time is messing with your mental well-being, please watch that documentary. And number 11, for OCD specifically, resist those compulsions. Now, other great resources for OCD is Nathan Peterson's YouTube channel, OCD and Anxiety. No OCD, an online ERP therapy app with licensed professionals. Therapy in a Nutshell on YouTube speaks about OCD often. OCD International online for those outside of the United States looking for resources on OCD. And then Dr. Martin Seif and Lee Baer's books on OCD is fantastic. Going into PTSD and trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a mental health condition that's caused by an extremely stressful or terrifying event, either being part of it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, and uncomfortable thoughts about the event. Now, there are a lot of signs and symptoms for PTSD, so here's just a few. Easily scared and jumpy, severe emotional distress or physical reactions to something that reminds the person of the traumatic event, nightmares of the trauma, reliving the traumatic events known as flashbacks, unable to be in big spaces, small places, or really just around people in general, avoiding people, places, and or things that remind you of the trauma, intrusive thoughts, feelings, images, and sounds from the traumatic events, always being on guard or feeling like you are in danger, trouble sleeping and trouble paying attention, physical reactions like sweating, shaking, and having a panic attack, self-destructive behavior like drinking, partaking in drug use, or driving too fast. How to receive care for PTSD? You have to find a trauma specialist. These therapists have been trained and certified to treat PTSD, and it's the therapy for that is called trauma therapy. The most popular trauma therapies are eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, which I did very well successfully. Loved that therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy, or TFCBT. Prolonged exposure therapy, and also art therapy and yoga therapy. That is out. It's also nowadays um, assigned to patients because you need to bring the mind and the body back together. And yoga is a very safe way to do that. Other types of therapy that are helpful are emotionally focused therapy, or EFT, and solution focused therapy, SFT. Oftentimes, you need to do multiple types of trauma therapy to become subclinical, but this is normal. Within that list, I did probably 90% of those over 6 years. You will also need to continually be in therapy, even if it's seeing your therapist a few times a year, and even if that's just talk therapy, because there is no cure for PTSD. Navigating trauma and PTSD and how to manage it. A lot of the things that I said for OCD are the same, but really medication if needed or recommended. And that might be lifelong, it might be temporary. It really depends on the person. We definitely need to exercise daily and really get into yoga or really anything that brings you back to the present moment and bringing together mind and body. Seeking out a trauma specialist for therapy. It has to be a trauma PTSD therapist, or else they don't know what they're going to be doing with you. Mindfulness, meditation, yoga, as we said. Exercising daily, cutting back on sugar, caffeine, and or carbs, getting into a daily and nightly routine, and then getting up at the same time and going to bed at the same time. Spending time outdoors, limiting screen time, and also not trying to trigger yourself. And some people don't like to hear this, but there are a lot of pieces, and this is actually with OCD as well, though it goes into like the compulsion issue. With PTSD, unconsciously usually, but sometimes consciously, you are going to feel the urge or the need to look up specific traumatic things or events, um, and you are triggering yourself and you're traumatizing yourself over and over again, and that is not helpful. And a great resource on YouTube is Tim Fletcher's YouTube channel for extra help. He is a very well known and highly regarded trauma specialist. And you can also look into therapy in a nutshell as well. She does a great job. Moving on to generalized anxiety disorder, aka GAD. This is an excessive ongoing anxiety and worry that are difficult to control and interfere with your day-to-day activities. Generalized anxiety disorder has symptoms that are similar to panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and other types of anxiety, but they're all different compulsions. GAD symptoms and signs, we've got a lot. It's pretty general. We've got fatigue, trouble sleeping, muscle tension or muscle aches, trembling, feeling twitchy, sweating, nervousness or being easily startled, irritability, nausea, diarrhea, or irritable bowel syndrome because you're just so worked up. You're just buzzing. You're like just this. So after a while, there will be really bad physical symptoms, and you can develop irritable bowel syndrome after years of, well, really for any mental illness or disorder if it's left untreated, because the body can only handle so much adrenaline over and over again. I got it. I have problems with that. Now, persistent worrying or anxiety about a number of areas that are out of proportion to the impact of the events, difficulty handling uncertainty, perceiving situations and events as threatening even when they aren't, overthinking plans and solutions to all possible worst case outcomes, indecisiveness and fear of making the wrong decision, inability to set aside or let go of a worry, inability to relax, feeling restless and feeling keyed up or on edge all the time. And also difficulty concentrating or the feeling that your mind goes blank. That's me all the time. I mean, I do have multiple things that kind of play with each other. It's not just GAD that has that. You also have it with PTSD. Now, how to treat GAD? It is usually treated with a combination of psychotherapy and medication, but it cannot be cured. You will want to find a psychotherapist that specializes in GAD. You might also have panic disorder, which is different than GAD, or you might have both. They can be misdiagnosed if you see a therapist that doesn't know the differences. And there are slight differences, but those slight differences matter. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is a well-established and effective psychotherapy for GAD because it focuses on identifying and changing negative thought patterns over time. And really, with any type of mental illness or disorder or neurological disorder, you have to do CBT or any of the therapies that I mentioned for the rest of your life. Navigating GAD and how to treat it. Medication, for sure, at least in the beginning. Seeking out a specialist in generalized anxiety disorder and CBT, and really everything else that we mentioned before: mindfulness, meditation, hobbies, exercise, cutting back sugar, caffeine, carbs. We need that daily routine. We need some good sleep. We need to limit that screen time. Spend time outdoors, at least 30 minutes. And then checking out Therapy in a Nutshell's YouTube for extra advice and support. I think we're on second to last. What is depression? Well, everyone feels sad or low at times, but these feelings usually pass. Depression, also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression, is different. It can cause severe symptoms that affect how you feel, think, and handle daily activities such as sleeping, eating, or working. It is an illness that can affect anyone, regardless of age, race, income, culture, or education. Research suggests that genetic, biological, environmental, and psychological factors play a role in depression. Depression is very difficult to figure out and understand. And it's still an ongoing process on how to, like, what really is happening with depression. And it's not just one or two things, it's a lot of things go into depression. Now, what are the signs and symptoms? Feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness, angry outbursts, irritability, or frustration, even over small matters, loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities such as hobbies, sports, sex, spending time with family, your job, anxiety, agitation, or restlessness, sleep disturbances, including insomnia or sleeping too much, tiredness and lack of energy, so even small tasks take extra effort, reduced appetite and weight loss, or increased cravings for food and weight gain. So yes, this is why it's hard. It's going to depend. Some people, when they're depressed, they eat a lot. Some people that are depressed will eat hardly anything. And it's the same for sleeping. Some will sleep 16 hours a day. Some will not even sleep at all for days on time. Now, we also have slowed thinking, speaking, or body movements, feelings of worthlessness and guilt, and fixating on past failures or self-blame, trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, and remembering things. Oh, look, that's me. Well, mostly the remembering things. Oh boy. Frequent or recurrent thoughts of death, suicidal thoughts, suicide attempts or suicide, and unexplained physical problems such as back pain or headaches. Causes of depression. Biological differences. People with depression appear to have physical changes in their brains. The significance of these changes is still uncertain, but may eventually help pinpoint causes. Anyone that has a mental illness, mental disorder, or neurological disorder, or many of them, they will have a physically different looking brain and how it works compared to someone that does not have any of those. So if you have no mental illness disorder, neurological disorder, then you're called neurotypical. If you have one or more of any of mental issues, then you are neurodiverse. I know there are some people saying that like OCD doesn't count as being neurodiverse. I don't know where they're getting that from. Don't listen to people on TikTok. Okay. Because even if you just have OCD, which you're going to have more than just OCD, but let's just say somehow you just have OCD, your brain is still physically different. Now, inherited traits, another cause of depression. Depression is more common in people whose blood relatives also have this condition. Researchers are trying to find genes that may be involved in causing depression. Hormones, changes in the body's balance of hormones may be involved in causing or triggering depressions. Hormone changes can result with pregnancy during the weeks or months after delivery, which is postpartum. So you see postpartum depression and also postpartum OCD. Also from menopause, thyroid problems, and a number of other conditions regarding hormones. Brain chemistry. Neurotransmitters are naturally occurring brain chemicals that likely play a role in depression. Not 100% sure. We're still working on it. Research indicates that changes in the function and effect of these neurotransmitters and how they interact with the neurocircuits involved in maintaining mood stability may play a significant role in depression and its treatment, but that's still ongoing. Now, for many years, it is it's a lot of people, including psychotherapists and psychiatrists and doctors and researchers, said depression was just a chemical imbalance. But it's not just a chemical imbalance in the brain, as it was previously suggested, but it's many factors. How to receive care for depression. Now, this really depends on the person, and I know that sucks to hear, but there are many types of therapy for depression, and you might have to try a bunch of them before you hit the right one or right ones for you. CBT, very popular, but it's popular because it works. Interpersonal therapy, ITP, also is a big one. Group psychotherapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, and dialectical behavioral therapy, DPT. Medication is often prescribed for treatment of depression, but is not the end all be all treatment like it was in the past. Medication and therapy are used together to treat depression. And that was the whole thing. And I heard it many times where it was, oh, you just have a chemical imbalance in your brain. Here's a medication. Do I need to come back for therapy? No, the medication will be fine. Research has really debunked that. We will want therapy and medication, or both, or switching back and forth, really, because for some people they will have depression all their lives, and others it dissipates over time. This depends on the person, especially if it's like hormonal. Um, you can have postpartum depression or postpartum OCD. And then when with your doctors and your psychiatrist and your therapist, figure out what's going on. It can go away. Again, that depends on the person. So really navigating depression, how to manage it is basically the same as what we've listed, just adding in that a lot of the times medication is needed. Of course, seeking out a specialist in the types of therapies that I suggested or research suggests to treat depression. And again, Therapy in a Nutshell has a great uh, channel for extra advice. And I think she has a whole playlist on depression. And yeah, oh, wait, she has a lot of she has a lot of playlists for easy access. And I think her depression playlists are the most popular. Lastly, oh my God, we're almost there. What is ADHD? Well, it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And it's a mental health disorder that includes a combination of persistent problems like difficulty paying attention, hyperactivity, and impulsive behavior. Children and adults can have ADHD, though not every child is diagnosed, even if they show signs at an early age. What are the signs and symptoms of ADHD? Well, some people will have a decrease of symptoms as they age, but many will have ADHD as adults that affect their lives. The biggest thing really is impulsiveness, disorganization, and problems prioritizing things, poor time management skills, problems focusing on a task, trouble multitasking, excessive activity or restlessness, like you can't sit still. Poor planning, low frustration tolerance, frequent swings, temper issues, trouble coping with stress, even minor stressors, and problems following through and completing tasks on time. Some more information on ADHD. Everyone shows some symptoms, quote unquote, symptoms of ADHD as children, but that does not mean that everyone has ADHD. ADHD is diagnosed when there's a disrupt in one's life and the symptoms are reoccurring and affecting one's life that it is hard to function. These persistent symptoms can be traced to early childhood, but they will continue into adulthood. ADHD can sometimes be difficult to diagnose because the symptoms are similar to other mental illnesses and mental disorders, such as depression or generalized anxiety disorder. Always seek professional advice. You can speak to a psychiatrist, your doctor, or a therapist for ADHD diagnosis because this is a neurological disorder. The cause of ADHD is still unknown, though it does have a connection to one's genetics or really high continual stress. ADHD treatment is a lifelong brain disorder that reacts well to medication. CBT and ACT therapy are often used for ADHD treatment. One's therapist will also work on organizational skills, social skills, teaching impulse control, and getting on a daily routine because all of that is part of managing ADHD. Cannot be cured, but well managed. Now, you don't necessarily need to be on medication, but it can be beneficial depending on how badly it is affecting your everyday life. And yeah, for example, I'm on Adderall, but mine is 5 milligrams. Not a big deal. Some people might need double or triple that. It's going to depend on the person. Now, navigating ADHD, how to manage it, similar to what we just spoke about, but we really do need to get a hold on impulse. We need to have, or just really continually work on impulse control with a professional and set reminders on your phone, computer, use sticky notes, etc., so you don't forget important things. And for some people, if you talk in seconds versus in minutes, that helps a lot for some reason. I'm okay with minutes, but there are a lot of people with ADHD where you have to tell them, oh, okay, I can't do the math on this, so this is probably going to be wrong, but it takes 500 seconds to get to the front door to the car and get everything situated in the car and then leave versus, oh, it's going to take 5 minutes. For some reason, not 100% sure why, the seconds for a lot of people make more sense than minutes. And this comes into not paying attention, not understanding or like comprehending how long things take. So that's why there's a lot of people that have ADHD that are late or forget things. We don't, for some reason, we really don't know why we can't get it together when it comes to time and how time progresses. So I know I am always early because I know if I don't leave at a certain time, I'll probably be late. I'm never late unless there's like a horrible emergency somewhere. But that's how I've coped. I'm always early. I rather be early and wait, 15 minutes versus being really, really late. And that's just honestly, it's rude to the people that are waiting for you. So I also look at other people and have to remind myself, okay, I need to get myself together because there are other people involved and it's not fair to them to make them wait 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour because I can't get myself together. Sometimes guilting yourself helps. And I know people don't like to hear that, but honestly, I know this sucks to hear, but it's not with all these mental illnesses disorders. It's not only just affecting you, it affects everyone around you. And so there are times where you do have to do it for other people. I've had a lot of um, people that say, I just can't get out of bed for myself. I don't care. I'm like, okay, then get out of bed for your dog. You have to walk your dog. Your dog hasn't been outside for 2 days. Okay, get out of bed and take a shower and go visit your mom because your mom hasn't heard from you for 5 days or a week or a month. You have to sometimes push yourself out for other people because if you have low self-esteem, you have depression, or things are just, you just feel like you can't do anything because you feel like you're not good enough, then you have to think outwardly and say, okay, I might feel like I'm a piece of crap, but I have other people that depend on me or pets that depend on me. Even if you have fish, the fish will pass away if you don't take care of them. And do you want that to happen? No, you got to get up. You got to feed the fish, clean the tank, say hello. Some fish like to interact with humans. I don't know all of them, but like there are some fish that are very interactive. Think about your fish, think about your friends and your family, think about your pets in general to get out of bed. All right. And we're over with the presentation. Fantastic. Oh, well, you have a whole presentation, sci-fi five. But learning is great. Hello, hello. Yes, sleep deprivation is very awful. Now, I have a couple of questions that people sent in, and I think there might be some other ones that I missed. Probably. Okay. So we've got question number one. How does ADHD affect your writing and filming schedule? The writing is a bit different. I am an intuitive discovery Phoenix writer, and that is all coined by Becca Seif. It's a mouthful for sure. I about died. I'm so sorry. I was trying to hydrate and the water said no. Okay. Real life streaming, choking on water. That's okay. Um, yeah, so could those things be because I have ADHD and all my other stuff? Possibly. But it's also just everyone's different and everyone does different things with their writing. So a phoenix writer is like a phoenix. It is born and it burns bright. So then I will write 20,000 words in 2 weeks, right? But then the phoenix dies. And then we're on a break. How long that writing break is, I don't know. No one knows. But you kind of just have to accept it, or else it's just going to be worse off. You just have to accept the fate that you're on a writing break for X amount of time. But like every phoenix, it burns bright again. It's reborn. And then as it's reborn and it's burning bright, we will write 30,000 words in 2.5 weeks. And oh, look, you got a 50,000 word book. Congratulations. That's how I work. I also have a thing where if I'm too stressed out, I can't create art. And I know that's like a weird thing for a lot of people, but everyone's different. At this point, um, well, that's not completely true. I have written a few thousand words, but I had a period of time where probably like 5 months this year, I didn't write anything because I was so stressed out. But that's more about a stress thing, personal thing versus ADHD. I am also an intuitive discovery writer, so I don't outline. And this might come up with um, ADHD, maybe not. There's no research regarding writing art and mental illnesses or mental disorders or ADHD because I don't know how you would test that. But I don't outline unless I absolutely have to. And what intuitive discovery writing is that I already know the story subconsciously, unconsciously. And so I'm writing it out as I go and I just discover what the story is. And that's also known as pantsing. Regarding filming, I don't have a problem with ADHD and filming. Actually, just really love my channel and how fun it is. So it doesn't really affect me all that much. Number two, have you ever looked back at your work and thought if your mental state helped or hindered your story? Oh, yeah, all the time. I know that there are times where I could have been writing, but for 2 years straight, I didn't write anything because I was going through um, ERP therapy and trauma therapy, and it was just not going to work. Could I have could I have written more and therefore have more books out? Sure, but I don't like looking back. There is no point. There is no point in looking into the past, especially because you can't change it. And this is where anxiety and depression can really mess you up as what ifs. There's a lot of what ifs, but that doesn't change that in the present moment, here we are. And what are some goals that can be fixed and played with that then we can have a better future, right? So I could probably have like an extra couple books, but I have how many books? I have 3 standalones, 4 chat books, 1 short story, and 3 books in the urban fantasy series with 3 other books scheduled. I think I'm doing great, all, all things considered. So I know for sure, I think if you've been around a while and you've watched my um, videos on about my book specifically, you know that Teal Nostalgia, like 80% of those poems in that chapbook are from trauma therapy, and that would be considered the art therapy that I did. And there are also some uh, one-liner brevity poems in Paradise Found, my second published chapbook that also has to do with trauma therapy. So those are out in the open. And if you read, well, especially if you read Teal Nostalgia, you will see all the different stuff that was going through my mind for many, many years as I was doing the trauma therapy. Number 3, if you had a chance to write one single piece of advice to yourself 10 years ago that would have helped your mental well-being, what would it be? I would say listen to your therapist. It took 6 years for me to be subclinical because there were times where I wasn't listening to my therapist. You know, oopsie. You live and you learn, right? Listen to your therapist. Take their advice. And also another one that's great is everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. And that is scary, especially for those with OCD. OCD wants certainty, but you will never have certainty. I will say that again. You will never have certainty because life is uncertain. Life is life. It can be great one day and sucks another day, and other days it's like, oh yeah, we're just going along, and then something crazy happens and you're just surviving for 6 months, a year, 3 years. But then something great happens again, and then it's just a cycle. The cycle of life is it is what it is. So rather than wasting energy and time on trying to grab hold of your idea that life can be controlled, let go and accept that everything is temporary, life is uncertain, and to stay present in the moment. And I think I have have another one that I kind of touched on, and I forget which part it was. I think it was the depression part. It was, what do you do when you just don't feel like getting out of bed? So, one big thing is to remember that you have personal agency and you decide. Your brain does not decide, which is funny to say, but we are, as human beings, a species that has a consciousness. And it is not just eat, sleep, procreate, survive, not get eaten. We have those things, and that kind of messes things up a lot for us. But we also have a consciousness that is separate from those other base instincts. And so you have the personal agency to tell your brain to F off. I do it all the time. I troll my brain all the time, especially with OCD. Um, One thing with OCD is that you have to continually do ERP therapy. And if you're not assigned homework, so there is homework for if you're in ERP therapy with a professional, what you do is self ERP. And that's really just doing the opposite with what OCD is telling you to do. And it's living your life as you see fit. If your brain is saying you're a piece of crap, just bed rot, do the opposite. Get out of bed, give it the middle finger, and say, I'm going to shower, I'm going to eat breakfast, and I'm going to go take a walk because F you. This is my life. And yes, you are me, but I'm not going to listen to a mental illness or a mental disorder. I am in charge. The brain is not in charge right now. And that's going to take a lot of time to figure out how to just even begin, but this is a lifelong process. All of these things, you cannot cure any mental illness, any mental disorder, or neurological disorder. You cannot cure them. So instead of fighting tooth and nail against yourself, really, you have to learn detachment and compassion and giving yourself grace and saying, I understand that you, my brain, just misfiring with the neurons. My amygdala is small. It's not the normal size. Mine is probably very teeny at this point. The brain is just misfiring. It is like a misfunctioning computer. But at least with the brain, the human brain, you can manage it. Whereas if it's a misfiring or messed up, glitchy, buggy computer, you can't really use it after a while. And yes, okay, we all do die. That is life. It's a cycle of life. So I guess you could say that's kind of like the same. But when it comes to mechanics, I feel like a computer really doesn't have that long, especially nowadays. They're not well, um, well, they're not well maintained, but they're also not well created in the first place. But we have the ability to stand up to ourselves and say, I'm going to go outside for a walk. I know it's going to feel sucky at first. And maybe it's not even going to feel good after I get back inside, but it's better than bed rotting. It's better than crying all day and into the night, so much so that you pass out because you've been crying for 10 hours straight. We want to be active in some form or another because the mind and body are connected. And we, even if we personally don't feel like we are worth trying, then, like I said, go out and do things for other people or your pets, no matter, what the pet is, even a fish. Go take care of your fish. Your fish needs you. Your dog, your cat needs you. Your friends, your family needs you. Even internet buddies need you. So we got to get up out of the bed. And sometimes you got to slide. You got to slide off that bed. I've done that before many, many times. You're just laying there and you're like, oh, I hate life. I hate myself. Hmm. Okay, I'm just going to decide to go slip out of bed and take a shower. And you just kind of slow your roll out of the side of the bed and you're like, okay, here we go. It might very well be you got to slide off that bed. Because if you don't have the energy to jump out of the bed, you're going to slide off that bed. And that's okay. As long as you're out of the bed, you are then going to stand up. Or maybe you slid off the bed and you're lying on the floor. Okay, the next step is to get in the sitting position. And you're maybe going to sit there for a little bit. But then you might or might not have the urge to be like, ooh, okay, I feel a little better now. If you feel a little better, you're going to get back up. Fantastic. Stand up, take a shower. You smell. Think about other people as well. You smell. You don't want to smell your ickiness. Other people don't want to smell your ickiness. Go take a brisk shower, even 5 minutes. We got to get you cleaned up. Okay. And then, go about breakfast, lunch, dinner. I don't know. Depends where you live, the time zone. But get on a sleep schedule. But if you can't manage to stand up while you are sitting on the floor, grab something and pull yourself up. Now, there are things floating around like pop psychology or manifestation. Ugh, okay, I can't with the spiritual manifestation. We're not into that. Thank you. But there is a lot of research to suggest that if you are dwelling in negativity, then you are more likely to think negatively or even do negative things. I mean, that's the whole thing with choosing your friend circle carefully, and the fact that if you are choosing to be around and befriend bad people, you're more likely to do bad things with those bad people. So it is the same vein of if you are always thinking of the negative of everything and anything and including yourself, you're more likely to have those thoughts, and then those thoughts form feelings, and then you are going to have a hard time, not impossible, but you're going to have a hard time rewiring your brain into more indifferent, neutral, or positive thoughts and outcomes. How do I know? Okay. That was me. For most of my life, honestly, I was very negative. And it's not because necessarily I chose to be after um, a while. It was very unconscious. I have PTSD from childhood trauma that started from 8 years old all the way to 9, so a year. And yes, you're going to be very negative. You're going to see everything in a negative way, in a scary way. And that then forms into negative actions, negative thoughts, negative feelings. And yes, at a certain point, I hated myself. I hated the world. I hated everyone around me. And after a while, that's what I was drawn to. And it took many, many years to overcome that because I had to rewire my brain and upkeep that brain and that rewiring to not automatically go into the negative or not automatically be completely stressed out over a little bit of minor inconvenience. I'm way better than I was even a couple of years ago. It is an ongoing process, and it will continue to be an ongoing process of even just being in a neutral state, but even being in a positive state. That doesn't mean that you're broken or that you can't get help. It just means you need to work a little bit extra than the neurotypical person. We have ooh, a comment. Thank you. Hello, Wanda. Hi, Nicole. I am constantly at war with my brain. I feel that. Now, I would rephrase that because for a long time I was saying I'm going against my brain. I'm fighting with my brain. Um, it feels like a combat zone in my brain. I would say befriend or at least come to a ceasefire with yourself and your brain, and even make friends with your brain. And this is where we go into a rational, logical thinking. Uh, yes, I've had a lot of problems in my past. I have been dealt a shitty card or multiple shitty cards. I can't change what happened to me, especially as a kid. Can't change that. I, I would say then I can change my reaction and my actions. And in this moment, I'm going to decide to give my inner child a hug. I'm going to give myself a hug right now. And I'm going to say to my brain, I understand where you're coming from. But right now, I'm an adult. We're not thinking about the past anymore. I'm going to get help. And for right now, I understand and I see what's going on. And I'm so sorry that we went through terrible times. But now, as an adult, I know what and what not to do. So I'm going to take hold of you. Your Here's now the brain's just firing off. It's in just adrenaline dump after adrenaline dump because it's in survival mode. It's not in thriving mode. It's in survival mode. And you're going to go, yeah, I understand. For so long, we were in survival mode and it sucks. It does. Can't change the past, but we're going to get better. And it's going to be hard, but it's worth it at the end. I remember I was trying to control my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions. And it is like a war, a combat zone. If you're trying to hold and grab and control something that can't be controlled. So you have to really work at living in the moment and accepting that uncertainty and that feelings are not going to kill you. I know the brain is shooting off a lot of adrenaline saying, oh no, it's going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. It feels like it, but that does not mean that that's a fact. We have to go back into the rational part of ourselves, even if it's like 5%, because really, when we are in the midst of a panic attack or a psychosis, which I have been in many times, unfortunately, or an anxiety attack, or just facing a trigger, there's that like a sliver of logic and rationality in there, or maybe it's 1%. We're just going to hold on to that and we're going to remember that and we're going to slowly work our way out of that feeling and emotional roller coaster and go, I'm not going to fight you anymore. I'm just going to accept what is happening right now. This is where mindfulness comes into play. I'm compassionate to myself and to my past child. I am going to gracefully and compassionately bring myself back to the present moment. I'm going to bring myself back to the present with my mind and my body. We want to bring the mind and body back together because the mind can just go whoop. It just goes in a different crazy direction, and that's where you get lost. And the more you are present, the better you can handle things. Also, big point is breath work. And I should have listened to my therapist before this. Okay. The breath really, really matters. So, as my therapist explained to me in simple terms, why you have panic attacks, anxiety attacks, heightened emotions is because the breath comes away. It goes away with you. It gets lost. We want deep, steady breaths. The more that you have quick, shallow breaths, the more that it's signaling to your brain that there's something wrong. And then it goes into survival mode. It goes into flight, fight, freeze, or fawn mode. Yeah, there's 4 different types. It's not just fight or flight, it's 4 different types. And so that's how you unconsciously, but sometimes consciously, work yourself up into a panic attack or an anxiety attack because you're not focused on your body and your breath. The mind is floating and it's just outward. It's just not there. But we need to bring it back with the breath. And this is where mindfulness and meditation and yoga help a lot. And it's going to be difficult in the beginning. Absolutely. It might take a few years, but My 6 years of intense therapy, multiple intense therapies over the span of 6 years, was absolutely 100% worth all the money and time and tears and stress to get to where I am now, because I am subclinical with all of those things that we just went over. I also have a question about how to help ease anxiety, and these are good ones. I am going to post this in a in a couple of weeks? Yeah. 6 somatic practices to help ease anxiety. So grounding, press your feet into the floor and feel the connection to the ground. And this goes into the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. We're going to engage your senses. Name 5 things you see. 4 you can touch. 3 you can hear. 2 you can smell. And 1 you can taste. Another good one is the butterfly hug. You're going to cross your arms over your chest and lightly tap on your arms or your upper arms. Or you can do this, or you can do that. We're just trying to get the body back into a more realignment with the mind. And then we also have orienting. Slowly look around your environment and let your eyes rest on calming objects or scenes. Shaking. Ooh, yeah, we're going to shake it out. You know how dogs shake? It's usually, well, when they're like damp, right? So they shake off water. But dogs will also shake off to just release stress. So we're going to shake a little bit. And you can shake your arms, your legs, or your whole body, doesn't matter. We're going to do deep psychological sighs. 2 sharp inhales through the nose and 1 slow exhale through the mouth. We're also going to do the 10-10 breath. I'm going to take 10 sec, or no, I'm sorry, it's 10-10-10. Ooh, numbers. 10 seconds to inhale. 10 seconds to hold that breath. And then 10 seconds to release. And then we also have some yoga breath practices. I haven't done them in a while. Is it I think it is the fire breath. I'm going to look that up. This was a great one. I haven't had a panic attack in a really long time, so I haven't had to do the fire breath. Yes, okay. So fire breath can refer to a breathing technique used in yoga known as breath of fire, epic, which energizes the body and enhances lung capacity. It can also refer to a circus act, which, I mean, you're breathing fire, but that's different. So I would say breath of fire, look up breath of fire yoga, and it's a form of breath control, and it involves different types of breathing exercises. And once you inhale, exhale, hold your breath in a specific way. And you can also do there are many, many different breaths of fire. You can do like breaths of fire chanting, breaths of fire singing, also repetitive poses as you do the breathing breath of fire. I'm not going to do it because it's really loud, but you will you'll cross your legs, you'll sit, and you will find a comfortable position, and you're breathing pretty fast, but there is a technique. It's been around for thousands of years. You see it in Hinduism and Buddhism. I would definitely look that up, watch a few tutorials of the breath of fire before you do it, because you can upset your nervous system if you don't do it correctly. Always do some research before trying something, but I remember doing it in front of my therapist a long time ago, and I was like, this isn't going to work. Of course it worked. See, going back to the, was it the third question? What is one thing that you would give yourself 10 years ago advice? It would be listening to my therapist. And yeah, there's many different types of breathing techniques, grounding techniques, bringing yourself back into the present moment. And that's why yoga, meditation, and mindfulness is so important for people with uh, neurological disorders, mental illnesses, or mental disorders. Mindfulness, meditation, and yoga, not all of them together, but one or two or three, whatever tickles your fancy, must be done constantly every day for the rest of your life. But let's just say 20 minutes a day for meditation for the rest of your life. But that helps you out tremendously. I think that's a good win-win situation, right? I do mindfulness as in every time, every second of every day. It's not going to be perfect, obviously. But staying in the present, as in we are focusing on the thing that we are doing. I am not thinking about the past. I am not thinking about the future. I am focused on this one thing. And if it happens that I am drifting off, I will compassionately bring my thoughts and my focus back to the present moment. So if I am washing dishes, I am only washing dishes. I am not thinking about anything else. I am feeling the soap and the water on my hands. I am listening to the birds sing outside my window, and I am focused on cleaning the dirt off of the dishes, opening the dishwasher door, pulling out the racks, and putting the dishes in the dishwasher. That is mindfulness. And yeah, that's going to be hard. That's going to be really hard. It's hard all the time for me, but it is worth the time and the energy because I mean, your therapists are going to say you need to stay present. And how do you do that? Mindfulness. So, opportunities for mindfulness in daily life, focusing on brushing your teeth, just focusing on brushing your teeth, driving in silence with your windows down, or maybe your windows up. Yeah, it's really going to depend, right? So driving in silence with or without the windows up or down, or maybe like a sunroof. Ooh, that's be cute. And you're feeling the sun and the warmth, and you're focused on driving and things around you. Or you could be driving with calming music, but you're focusing on the driving and the music. You're going to uh, just be focusing on reading, or you're just focusing on vacuuming, or like I said, dishes, or laundry. Now, I know a lot of people will do audiobooks as they're doing chores, but and that's totally valid. But just ask yourself, what and why am I in need of always having something going in the background? Are you running for something? Do you not like the silence? Why do you not like the silence? If that's the reason, does it make you really uncomfortable or even scared about silence? And that's a big thing to think about because there are things that have to be tweaked. You have to befriend yourself and your mind. And just like with all friendships, all relationships, there's going to be problems. Of course there are. But you have yourself. This is what you got. Are you going to fight yourself and your brain for the rest of your life? Or are you going to befriend the good parts and, of course, the bad parts, and at least get to a neutral state, a little bit of an understanding? I troll my brain all the time. I troll it with mainly because of OCD. And these are like really advanced techniques. So if you're starting out with ERP, you're not going to do what I do. But I will often just do outlandish things whenever I have an intrusive thought. Um, there have been a couple of times where my OCD will say, "Don't go outside or else you're going to die." Okay, where's the logic in that? There is no logic. It's just stupid. There's a lot of points, just not even just for OCD, but for like every mind issue. Y'all are just stupid. Stop. You're stupid. You're thinking stupid things. You want me to believe stupid things. I'm going to do the opposite of what you're saying. So I've had quite a few times where my OCD is like, don't go outside or else you're going to get killed. And so I go outside and I laugh because it's just funny. And I can feel my brain just Pikachu confusion face. And I'm like, I got you. Yes, I do. I got you. Now shut up for a little bit. I'm going to go back inside and eat some pizza. Not, I only eat pizza once a quarter. Sometimes you do need a little treatsy treats. Just don't eat a lot of that icky stuff. And I say it's because there's a lot of stuff in the pizza where it's not great for you. Have a nice steak, have a fillet of salmon, have some salad, and limit your intake of pizza and junk food. But you can have num nums on occasion. You deserve some stuff on occasion. Hello, Constance. Hello. It's okay. I did try and do like an earlier time because at least I think the majority of people are at least 3 hours ahead of me, if not 5, 6, 8 hours. But good thing with lives, you can rewatch. I love grounding exercises. I don't do as much anymore because um, I've got a handle for the most part. I've got a handle on my brain. We've come to fantastic terms with one another. Took a long time, but we are buddies until it wants to act up, and then I'll troll it. Good advice. I talked myself out of a panic attack yesterday. I love the body movements. They help. Absolutely. We love to see progress. You can't even talk yourself out of psychosis. I've done it many times. You don't have to do what your brain is saying that you have to do. Even if you're in the middle of a panic attack, you can be like, you know what, F you. I want to go walk around the lake. I'm going to do that with or without your help. There was a time, how long ago was this? Oh, 8, 9 years ago. Oof, okay. I don't even remember what the panic attack was about. Had it involved I think it involved someone, and my brain thought it was like a threat on my life, which wasn't. But it was in survival mode. Every single small thing was just, oh my God, you're going to die. Yes. Okay. So had a panic attack. It lasted for a long time. Then it went into a psychosis. And I don't know how long it was in a psychosis. I was not seeing things. I was seeing things in the past. I could not feel my body. I couldn't really feel anything. And so, but then I was like, there's that 1% logic. It's there. You just have to, come back inch by inch into the present, not the future. You have to come back into the present and just align with your mind and body. And I found that 1% logic. And I said, this doesn't make sense. I'm going to get up and I'm going to take a shower. because this is stupid. Took a little extra time, maybe like 15, 20 minutes to get out of that, but I had to keep reminding myself, this is stupid. I am in the year, what is like 9 years ago? I don't know. I'm in the year, oh wait, I have a calculator. Mm-hmm. I'm the year 2016. I'm in Virginia. I am wearing a t-shirt and jeans. I'm not wearing shoes, but I have socks on. And it just kept going over and over on what is actually here. I am not in the past anymore. I am not about to die. I am in 2016. This is what I'm wearing. This is what I'm seeing. And then that's a grounding technique. And you actually see in the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins, shout out to her. It's kind of similar to the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique, but for I think that's a little more honed in. For the grounding technique, I'm sure it has a name for it, but escaping me at the moment. I learned about that from my therapist. I still see the same therapist. It's been 12 years. Shout out to my therapist. He probably did say like the official term, but it was really just say everything that you can that is logical. What is the year? What are you wearing? What's around you? What do you smell? What do you taste? And just keep going and going and going on until your body aligns back to your brain and you are now in the present. And yes, it can take a long time to do that if you're, especially like with my case, I was having panic attacks every single day, multiple times a day, and it could last for hours. There were multiple instances where I was having a panic attack that then turned into a psychosis that would last the whole day. And this was before my therapy. Of course, that is life altering. That messes everything up for yourself, but also for the people around you and for your pets, for your coworkers. But there is a point in with a professional that knows what they're doing. It's that you have to get to a lower level. Like I was at a 10. I need to get down to like a 7 of the scale of, oh my gosh, everything's horrible. I'm gonna die at any moment. Okay, let's go into a psychosis that lasts 10 hours. Well, you can't function that way. So we have to have different techniques, grounding techniques, medication, multiple different types of therapies to get down to a reasonable level to then actually do the work. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. But yeah, if you're at depending on the person, of course, but especially if you're at a 8 to 10 level of, oh my God, I'm freaking the hell out every single day with no let up, we're going to have to work on getting you down to a more reasonable level. And then that's when the work begins. So it could very well be that the main goal right now is we're going to figure out medication. You're seeing a professional and you are just trying to stop the panic attacks and the psychosis from happening. So because you can't work in a psychosis, you have to get down. Yeah, breath of fire. What did I say? Fire. The, different terms. Oh, look, it's Thomas and his beard. Okay, I'm going to skip one thing over here. What do you mean by psychosis? Okay, so it's a disconnection from reality where people may experience hallucinations, seeing or hear things that aren't there, and delusions, strong beliefs that are not true. And it's a symptom of various mental health disorders and can be treated by medication and therapy. You see psychosis a lot with people with PTSD. The psychosis is that you go back into the past and you're often reliving the trauma or multiple traumas. So let's say, for example, you have a car, like a horrible car accident, and it's been 6 months, but you're still triggered by anything cars, right? And so let's say you're walking down the street because you're not driving anymore because now you have PTSD from this horrible car accident that has traumatized you. And so the trigger for a psychosis or a panic attack or an anxiety attack is you hear a lot of cars honking their horns. Why? Because before or even during this car accident, there were a lot of horns honking. So now your brain is triggered into that traumatic moment, and you're having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and you haven't calmed down, and now you're in a psychosis where now you're on the side of the street, but you're not there, right? You're in the past, and your brain just smart and stupid at the same time. It remembers what happened during that tragic car accident 6 months ago, but you're not there. Of course, you know, you're here right now, but the brain has heard danger, 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 car horns going off. It has connected the car horns to the traumatic accident 6 months ago. So now you're brought back in time, and you're at the point of, oh my God, I'm in that car accident. I saw 5 people pass away in front of me. And so you're in the psychosis of hallucinating everything that happened during that car accident, everything that you did or other people were doing, or even what you should have done or thought that you did. And so that is a psychosis, and you have to bring yourself slowly back out of that psychosis. And that can be very dangerous, especially like with combat veterans. They think that they're in a war zone. Their brain has, like you see a lot with 4th of July with like fireworks. Fireworks sounds like certain bombs, or IEDs, right? And even sometimes gunfire. And that's why a lot of people aren't huge fans of fireworks going off, you know, before, during, after 4th of July. Or it doesn't even need to be combat veterans. I had a problem with fireworks because it's just loud. Um, and pets do as well. Just like those loud pop, pop, pop. It freaks a lot of people out, not just combat veterans. But going back onto the specific combat veteran topic, so combat veteran did a tour in Iraq, and there was heavy gunfire, and comes back uh, comes back a couple months later, 4th of July. We have fireworks going off for hours just on 4th of July. It's usually before and after, but to make things more simple, let's just stay with the 4th of July. That combat veteran says, oh my God, we have enemy fire happening. And they're going to go back into that war zone. They're in a psychosis. And they're going, I have to protect my loved ones. And they might not even see their loved ones, see their fellow soldiers or Marines. That's how weirdly crazy, amazing the brain is. The hallucinations are very real. I thought that a lot of things were real, but they were hallucinations while I was going through it. So to make it a little more simpler, okay, combat veteran, there's fireworks going off. It's 4th of July. They're not in Iraq anymore, but they now have been transported because the fireworks are the triggers of the brain saying danger, danger, danger. Now we're back in the past of a combat zone. That combat veteran might or might not see, but let's just say they don't see their friends and family. Their hallucination is enemy fire. They're in Iraq. we have to help everyone in this camp, and they're not seeing their friends and family. The faces of their fellow soldiers or Marines are on their friends and family. Or, this is where it gets scary, is that if they ever came across an enemy combatant, then the hallucination can be that enemy combatant's face that's just drilled in their brain because adrenaline rush, oh my God, I almost died. That's going to be very seared into your brain. That enemy combatant's face is now on your wife's face, or your uncle's face. And that's where you see a lot of these situations with combat veterans where they are attacking people that you wouldn't think that they would, but it's hallucinations because they're in a deep psychosis. And there are specific ways you go about handling that, and never it's never to pretend like this is happening. It's the same thing for uh, people with schizophrenia. You do not act like their hallucinations are real. It's not real. That makes it worse. So, in the same vein of psychosis, hallucinations with PTSD, we're bringing facts back into the table. We are trying to align the mind and the body to the present day. You are not in Iraq anymore. It's 4th of July. There are fireworks going off. You do not need to grab your guns and things that you think are grenades, and you don't have to put on your boots. You are in Norfolk, Virginia. You're now 39 years old. You are wearing a Hawaiian shirt and shorts and maybe a Van shoes. We're just focusing on what is here right now. And there are, especially for the combat veterans, there, yes, it can be very dangerous because they usually grab some type of weapon because they're thinking that they're going to die, or their friends are going to die, or somehow the brain is smart and stupid at the same time. Somehow the enemy combatants are at your house. Don't know how, but it's there. We've got to arm up. No, we don't. But that's what the brain, in its huge adrenaline dump and its fight mode, because that's a fight mode, is going, oh my gosh, we've got to just go all out now because somehow we're in the combat zone again. Hopefully that made sense. It's very complex. And that's why PTSD is very difficult to have to get a handle on. But it can with trauma therapy, with a trauma specialist. Do not go to a talk therapist just for trauma therapy. Really don't go to a talk therapist for most things because they're not specialized in they're not specialized, they're not certified, they're not licensed in certain types of mental illnesses and disorders and neurological disorders, and they often make things worse. No fault to talk therapists. There are reasons for talk therapy, but you need specialists for specialized care. Nicole, do you have to learn to be? Oh, did you have to? I'm messing this up. Did you have to learn to become okay with uncomfortable feelings? Absolutely. Everyone has uncomfortable feelings. Life sucks, but life is also fantastic. There is no way ever that there will be a time in life where everything is going to be certain and everything is going to be comfortable. And now we have a problem, no matter the age group, really. of everything has to be comfortable. That's not possible. It's not possible. Even if there's an uncomfortable feeling for a couple seconds, you got to accept that that's going to happen. Probably not even once in a while. It's going to happen like probably every single day for the rest of your life. So are you going to fight against being always comfortable and always making sure that everything is certain? Because that's an impossible task that you're wasting time and energy into trying to make it work. It's not going to work. Or are you going to accept that life is uncertain? Life is scary. Life is uncomfortable. There are going to be hurdles that you have to get over. And if you can't get over them, how do you get through them? And that you have to face your fears in order to get better. And I know that sucks, but it's also a reality that we cannot not talk about. There's a lot about feelings and emotions, but feelings and emotions are there to keep you safe. They're not logical, they're not rational. And in the 21st century, a lot of emotions are not needed. Like every time I see this meme a lot, and it's hilariously true. The meme of I would be so amazing if my brain could figure out that a ringing phone is not a death sentence. And it's so true because I have my phone. Well, it goes on and off. I have a ringer, but then I also have it vibrate. And oh my gosh, the adrenaline dump that happens most of the time when my phone rings. It's like I am not being attacked by a lion. Brain, would you calm down? It's gotten better, but some things are just like I guess that's just how it's going to be for the rest of my life. But that happens with everyone. Not it happens with neurotypical people and neurodiverse people. It's just the brain not understanding everything of the 21st century, or even the 20th or the 19th or the 18th century. Our brains, we do have a consciousness and we do have a pretty logical and rational brain compared to other animal species, but it's still a little dumb. Okay. I think we just have to all accept that the human brain is smart and stupid at the same time. And that is very freeing. At least I think it's very freeing because there are just some just things that happen, like emotions and feelings, where it's just like, are you okay? No, human brain, human condition, really. Okay, what's my reaction going to be? What's my action going to be? We cannot, we cannot control our thoughts and our feelings. And we cannot control other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions. What we can control are our actions, and that's what matters. I can't control the intrusive thoughts that pop into my head because of OCD. I can control what I do regarding those intrusive thoughts. I cannot control if my brain wants to give me an adrenaline dump because the phone rings and the ringer is a little too loud. What is my reaction? And what's the action that I'm going to take? I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to answer that phone. And I'm probably also going to make fun of myself slash my brain and be like, really, girl? Come on. Comedy is free medicine. And it really diffuses the situation because you're telling yourself, you're telling your brain, this isn't serious. I don't know why you're being serious, but this is hilarious. And especially with, well, really with all the things that I spoke about, more so the mental disorders, not a little bit with ADHD, but more focusing on the mental illnesses and disorders. Not caring is a big deal. Why? Because if you don't care, like truly, you truly don't care about something, then it's not in your mind. It's not a problem. There's no feeling there because you are not going to react in a positive or negative way about something you don't care about. I flickered a little bit there. I guess the internet says you need to calm down and leave. Um, no, but we're going to keep going a little longer. Where was I? Yes. Okay. If you don't care about something, your brain then thinks, okay, then it's not a big deal. We're going to move on. And that is the key, especially with OCD and with generalized anxiety disorder and even with trauma. The more fuel you add, the bigger the fire is going to be. And this is where we get into the mindfulness, meditation, the yoga, but really, I would say, especially with the mindfulness, because that's every second of every day. I am in this present moment. The present moment is what counts. It is not the past, it's not the future. My power lies in the present. And this is going to be a tough thing to deal with, really, for in the beginning, where you're going to notice all the time that your thoughts drift and your brain just makes shit up. And that's what it's used to doing. And that is a protective um, thing that people do. You're looking for worst case scenarios because your brain's trying to protect you from those worst case scenarios. But we don't need to do that most of the time. There are some times that you do, you know, but 9 times out of 10, you don't need to be thinking about the past and you don't need to be thinking about the future. So we're going to compassionately, without judgment, bring yourself back into that present moment. And I know a lot of people will beat themselves up for having these feelings or these thoughts, or why can't I stay present? This is a lifelong commitment of mindfulness. It gets better over time. But just remember, every mental illness disorder, neurological disorder will get worse when you have high stressors in your life. So keep that in mind as well. Like my generalized anxiety disorder right now is through the roof because I have a continual high stress situation that's been going on for 7 months. Of course, my mental illnesses and disorders are going to be acting up. But I'm going to always continually bring myself back to the present moment because I know for a fact if I go into the past or the future, that's going to be worse for me. Smart and stupid at the same time is my new mantra. Yes. And we can also go into everything is temporary. And I know that is scary. And at times I say that I kind of realize, oh, that's scary. But it's also free. I mean, life is life. And um, we have our ups and downs, but everything is temporary. And the fact that, yeah, I even like the worst case, 10 hours of a panic attack turned into a psychosis with me on the floor, curled up in a ball for that whole time, but it still ended. It's a long time. Yes, it is, but it still ended. It is temporary. Just like 7 months, it is a long time, but that's still temporary because things always change. It might take a while, or it might take like 2 seconds, but it all changes. Everything is temporary. Hi, Andy. Hello. I like when I dissociate and then float around the room while being surrounded by a group of people, then snapping back and without skipping a beat making a joke based on what the person was saying. Yes, the brain is very interesting. Nowadays I am disassociating a little bit extra, but I used to disassociate all the time. But your brain, yeah, it's stuck in the mode of survival, which is fine, but also like y'all calm down. So you can disassociate, but then your brain is also in some capacity paying attention to what's going on around you, just in case a lion jumps out of the tree line, or a lion or a bear, any type of predator animal or human. So it's always going. Your brain does not shut down fully. And even if you're disassociating or you're in a psychosis, you're having a panic attack, it's still, in the back, it's going, what's going on? Okay, well, even if it's just a little portion of it, it knows for the most part what's going on. But there are times where you're so lost in things that even if, in the moment you might see like someone passing you, if you have a panic attack, you might not remember it. And that's where being present is really helpful because you're just staying in the moment of now, and you can um, you are paying attention more to their surroundings. So not only are you calming yourself down, but you are also in many ways protecting yourself even more by staying in the moment and not drifting off, because you're allowing your mind to settle, and therefore it's going to be more aware of everything going on. Not everything, but you can't be aware of everything. And I know the mind is upset about that, but as much as you can, or as much as it can, staying in the present is actually better, of course, for you for many, many reasons, but also because you're calming the nervous system and you know what's going on. Because you are in a state of, um, what's that word? If you're in a psychosis for 10 hours, like I have been many times, or, longer, you are very vulnerable. And your brain doesn't like that, but smart and stupid at the same time. It's so triggered by something that it thinks is the greatest threat that, yeah, it will put you in that psychosis where, you're rolled up in a ball on the ground or in your closet, been there too, sobbing. But that has now made it even worse for you in a vulnerable state. But your brain has just, for many, many reasons, figured that, oh, well, that thing in the past, like 10 years ago is actually way more dangerous than the present. Not necessarily true, especially if you're out in public, but it just does things. And there are points where you're like, what are you doing? I say that to my brain, myself, all the time. Sweetie, what are you doing? And the detachment, which is your consciousness, and it's part of mindfulness practice and meditation. And I mean, you see it all the time in Hinduism and Buddhism, where you're trying to detach yourself from the monkey mind, as it were. You're trying to detach from your mental illnesses and disorders. And you're kind of, in the back of your mind, or maybe however you want to personify it. I usually personify it as like, um, kind of my logical self, my calm self with the batshit crazy whatever is going on in my mind, where I've detached and I'm compassionate and I'm cool, calm, collected, and rational, looking at myself, at my brain, and going, that's not needed. Let's come back to the present moment and let's continue watching TV. Let's continue writing. Let's continue working on this specific PowerPoint presentation that's due in 2 days. And you're just trying to bring calmness and focus back to whatever you were doing before your brain decided to think that everything was on fire. Stop it. Which, look, you're not going to stop it. You're going to stop it because it's temporary for now, but you're always going to you are compassionately on yourself in a way where I am aware of what's going on. I can see where this is going. You want to think about something that I said 5 years ago that was embarrassing. Do we need to do that? No, we don't. We definitely do not. Because so what? What does it matter? It doesn't, because everything's temporary. See, it all comes back to that. Everything's temporary. You can't control your thoughts, feelings, memories, urges. All you can do is control your actions. And I mean, you could work yourself up over a memory that you think, but you don't, 100% sure know that it was embarrassing, or you can just bring yourself back to whatever you were doing and focus your energy on that. It's way better to do that. Coming from me, where, oh my gosh, I would spend so long just thinking about things that didn't matter. It does not matter at the end of the day. I think there is also a lot of things where you have to ask yourself, so what? So what? Really, when it comes down to it, nothing. You're just kicking up the anxiety, kicking up your stress. And yes, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. Are you really going to think on your deathbed about those times where it was like kind of awkward? Or are you going to think about the really cool times, the fun times, all that you accomplished, your friends, family? It's usually the second option. Now, I can't say, because nothing is certain, that you won't think about the silly, stupid, uncomfortable, scary times, later down the road. Of course, because the brain is going to brain. But really, what matters is you and your morals and your actions, not memories, because those actually change. Every time you think or you remember a memory, it changes slightly. So, I mean, and that's one of the few reasons why eyewitness testimony nowadays, it doesn't hold up in a court of law, because neuroscientists and psychologists and psychiatrists and psychotherapists have learned that memory changes over time. So even when people are upset about a memory, I say, how many times have you thought about that memory? How many times have you gone back and replayed that memory? And it's a lot of the time, especially with OCD, because it's rumination, and there's a specific subtype of OCD called false memory OCD, or just really just going back into a memory and ruminating over that memory. How many times have you thought about that memory? And there'll be like dozens and dozens of times, and it's just so freaking scary. I'm like, well, the news is that every time you go back and remember a memory, it changes a little over time. And when you're remembering something in the state that you are at presently, that also, that, the little neurons It rewires the memory ever so slightly over and over and over again. So be wary of that. And it is hard. It really is to change those, to rewire the neurons because the pathways are, they can be very deep rooted in your lovely brain, but it can be done. And it's all about, you see this with habits, right? The average is you form a habit within 2 to 3 weeks, and it takes about 2 to 3 months to start to break a habit because of those neurons they're not 100% set, but they're there. But rewiring them, it can be done. It takes a long time. And then also there's, especially with traumatic things or high stressors in your life that continue on and on, those neurons can revert back to what it was originally, but you're like overriding the neurons by rewiring the brain with therapy. And so that's why a lot of people you can see have relapses or they have a panic attack or multiple panic attacks, even though they haven't had a panic attack in 5 years over this particular childhood trauma. But it's very complex and difficult, and really that's life. That's the human condition. So you can't cure any of these mental illnesses. And I hate when people use that word cure. No, you can't. The word cure means you have a treatment plan, whatever that may be. And then that completely gets rid of that thing. But that's not ever going to happen. Maybe in like 5,000 years. I don't even know. The human brain is just bizarre. I don't know if you can cure a mental illness or disorder or neurological disorder because it's all connected and it's just really complex. So let's say for now, we're never going to cure any of those things. So we have to work with what we got. And that's a lot of management, but it's worth it. It absolutely is worth it because do you want to honestly, and I have to tell people this when I volunteer for especially OCD, but also PTSD, do you want to go through a couple years of intense therapy that absolutely sucks, but you come on the other side subclinical? And if you ever have relapses, you know exactly what to do. So those relapses aren't going to take years, but they might take months or weeks or maybe even a few days. I prefer that. I for sure prefer that. Management is key. And that is what subclinical really comes down to. You are on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like a 1 to 3. So little to no symptoms, but little is like maybe you have like a little trip once a day or something like that. Or maybe you have a trip up once a week, little to no symptoms. And then something really terrible happens. But because you've been subclinical for a long period of time, you have coping mechanisms, you have coping skills, you know exactly what and what not to do in response to these terrible situations because you've been through it before. And you go back to therapy and you're like, okay, this is what happened. And your therapist is going to be saying, okay, we'll do, depending, here's some extra stuff, but you know what to do. Because though it's a different topic. So like maybe like you had a childhood trauma from 9 years old, got help, you're subclinical. Okay, now you're 30 and you got into a terrible car accident. They're different topics, they are different traumas, but we're still doing the same type of therapy and the coping mechanisms and management on how to handle that. So, yes, there's going to be different issues, different topics of different issues, but they're still going to be treated similarly or maybe sometimes even the same. And it's going to suck, but it's better than what is the other option of not getting better, but getting worse because you're not doing the treatment or the management of upkeep. Let's see if there is anything else on my mind. Oh, some other great resources, Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score. That is for PTSD. It can definitely trigger people, but I think it's very important. It's the #1 best book for PTSD and trauma. And Bessel is a leading expert in PTSD and trauma. Also, Peter Levin, Waking the Tiger. That is a great resource of kind of sort of new. I don't know if it counts as experimental anymore. Maybe it is. But that book, Waking the Tiger, is all about how trauma is stored in the body because mind and body connected. You can't have one without the other. And how to overcome traumatic events in acting out the traumatic events. Is it going to work for everyone? No. But that's why you have like 10 different types of therapies for trauma, for PTSD, because it's not a one size fits all. It's really not a one size fits all for any mental illness, disorder, neurological disorder, because everyone's different. But at least there's a lot of different options that you have and that you can tap into. And I don't know if Peter has other books, but Waking the Tiger is the most popular. And like I said many hours ago, so I'll just say it over and over again. Therapy in a Nutshell, Emma, she's a licensed therapist. She's amazing. Nathan Peterson, that is specifically for OCD and anxiety. That's a YouTube channel. And if you can't have or you can't find in-person OCD specialists, then you can go to No OCD, which is online. And if your health insurance does not take, or if your health insurance doesn't align with No OCD, then go to Nathan Peterson's online OCD course. I've heard fantastic things, and he is also a licensed professional, so he knows what he's doing. And then Tim Fletcher is a licensed trauma specialist, and he has amazing courses and free videos on trauma and PTSD. I love those three particular YouTube channels. I trust them. I am sure there are others that are great that are out there. I just know for sure Therapy in a Nutshell, Nathan Peterson, Tim Fletcher are legit on YouTube. Besser Vander Kolk, Peter Levin, Dr. Martin Seif, and Lee Baer, those are legit OCD and trauma specialists. And yeah, OCD and PTSD, out of all of the ones that I have, those are really like the worst. Quote unquote, the worst. Because yeah, you need specialized care, like for sure specialized care. You could go to like like with ADHD, you can see your primary care physician. You can see just a psychiatrist. I suggest many things, but technically you could, see a couple of people and like be medicated and you're pretty good to go. For the most part, not all the time. It really depends on how severe your ADHD is. But you don't have to be in therapy for ADHD. You have to be in therapy for sure for PTSD and OCD, and it's very specialized care for those two things. And especially for OCD, because it's already rare in and of itself, there's going to be less specialists that know about OCD and can do ERP therapy. So that's where I'm like, oh, yeah, it's kind of sucky out there for those with OCD because there are a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about. And the signs for that are if someone says, oh, yeah, I know about OCD, I can treat you, but they don't do ERP, they don't know what they're talking about. Don't see them. It is honestly, and this sucks, it does suck, but it's honestly better to not go to a professional, like a talk therapist, if you have OCD, than go to see them. They're going to make it worse. They're going to make it worse because they're going to try and analyze every single detail of your thoughts, feelings, urges, blah, blah, blah. The intrusive thoughts, feelings, urges, images don't define you. And the compulsions, don't do them. But for people that don't know about OCD, they're going to want to talk it out with you. Why are you having these intrusive thoughts, feelings, and urges? Is it something about your past? And it could very well be. But that actually for OCD, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of mind blowing. But that's why OCD is so weird. You can't do most things that you can do with all the other mental illnesses and neurological disorders. With OCD, you just make it worse. And yeah, with PTSD, with trauma, yeah, you need a trauma specialist because talk therapy can make it worse. I've seen it happen a lot, not with just myself, but with other people. You have to expose yourself to things that are scary, to things that are triggering, and you need someone to guide you through that. So, after a while, when you become subclinical and all that stuff, you can do that on your own, but you definitely need help in the beginning, for sure, and for many years to come afterwards. So I hope this was helpful in any way, shape, or form. Thank you, everyone, for sending questions beforehand and showing up and asking questions. If you have any other question, comments, and concerns, this will be available for anyone and everyone to view, and leave your questions in the comment section below. I will have a list of citations and resources in the description box. I forgot to add them beforehand. Sorry, that was my ADHD moment. Like I said in the beginning, but they will be up and ready to go at least within 24 hours. So if you're watching this 2 months from now or whatever, those resources and citations will be down below for you to check out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this helped, like I said, in any way. If you want to ask questions but you're not comfortable doing so in the comment section, my business email is on my channel, so you can reach out in that way. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.